man outside my window. I was 17 years old and home alone. My parents had left town for the weekend, leaving me in our two-story house. At first, I loved the idea of having the whole house to myself, but that night turned into something I'll never forget. It was around 2:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I looked at my phone when the strange sound woke me up. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought it was rain hitting the window, but then it happened again. Tap, tap. It sounded deliberate, like someone was knocking. Half asleep, I slowly opened my eyes, and the moment I looked toward my window, my body froze. There was a figure standing outside the glass, a tall man, completely still, just staring at me. His face was pale, almost unnatural, but the most disturbing thing about him were his eyes. They looked completely black in the darkness. My brain tried to make sense of what I was seeing, but then the realization hit me. My bedroom was on the second floor. There was no balcony, no ladder, nothing someone could stand on. Yet somehow, he was there, just inches from my window, watching me. The man slowly lifted his hand and knocked again. Tap. Then he smiled. Not a normal smile. It was wide, too wide. I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs, nearly tripping on the stairs. I called the police immediately. They arrived quickly and searched the entire yard and house, but they found nothing. No footprints, no ladder, no broken branches, nothing at all. But when I went back upstairs the next morning, there were 3 greasy fingerprints on the outside of my window. And the scariest part? They were placed exactly where the man's face had been, like he had been leaning against the glass, watching me sleep. To this day, I still check my window every night before going to bed, because sometimes, when I think about it, I wonder something that terrifies me. What if he wasn't trying to get inside? What if he was already inside the house and just wanted me to wake up? The voice that knew my name. I was staying at my cousin's apartment for the weekend. Her building was old and quiet, the kind where every sound echoes through the hallway. That night we stayed up watching movies until around 1:30 a.m. Eventually, we both fell asleep in the living room. Around 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly. I had this strange feeling like someone was watching me. At first, everything was quiet. Then I heard it, a whisper, coming from the hallway. Very soft, very slow. Hello? I assumed my cousin had woken up, but when I turned toward her, she was still asleep beside me. Then the whisper came again. Hello? But this time it sounded closer. The hallway light was off, so all I could see was darkness. Then the whisper said something new. Can you hear me? My stomach dropped, because the voice didn't sound normal. It sounded raspy, almost like someone who hadn't spoken in years. Then it said something even worse. My name. Pause. My name. Pause. My name is behind you. My entire body went cold, because the voice was no longer in the hallway. It was right behind the couch, right behind my head. I slowly turned around. Nothing was there, but the whisper continued, right next to my ear. My name. My name. I screamed and woke my cousin up. We turned on every light in the apartment. We searched everywhere. No one was there. But the creepiest part happened the next morning. My cousin told me something she had never mentioned before. Apparently, the previous tenant in that apartment had died there, alone. And according to neighbors, he used to wander the hallway at night, talking to himself, repeating the same phrase, my name. Someone was living in my house. I was living alone in a small house at the time. Everything was normal for months, until one night around 3:15 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps downstairs. Slow, heavy footsteps. At first I assumed it was my imagination, but then I heard something else. A chair scraping across the floor. My heart started racing, because I lived alone. I grabbed my phone and stayed completely still. The footsteps continued, walking around my living room. Then suddenly, they stopped, and everything went quiet. Then I heard something that terrified me. Footsteps, coming up the stairs, slow, one step, pause, another step, pause. The stairs creaked loudly with each step. The person was moving slowly, like they were trying not to make noise. Eventually, the footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. Then the door handle slowly started turning. I held my breath, but the door was locked. Whoever was on the other side tried opening it several times. Then, silence. 10 minutes later, the police arrived. They searched the entire house, and they didn't find anyone. But they discovered something disturbing. In the attic, there was a small space with blankets, food wrappers, and empty water bottles. Someone had been living there, watching me, listening to me, sleeping above me, for who knows how long. But the part that still haunts me is something the officer said before leaving. He told me, "Whoever was living up there probably heard you call the police." Then he looked back at the attic door and added quietly, "They may still be somewhere nearby." I moved out 2 days later, but sometimes late at night, I still think about something that keeps me awake. If someone was living in my attic, then they knew exactly when I was asleep.